Hi there. I'm Brian Nelson Palmer. I'm the founder of Productivity Gladiator, and I train gladiators, productivity gladiators. And today is about a session about the 5 specific time waster mistakes and scenarios that have just happened to me recently. I'm really excited to share this one because I did a TED Talk last year or a TEDx Talk last year, and this was something that I'm passionate about. A lot of people watch that video, but this stuff continues to come up. So I share some really good examples in the talk, but this is a continuous conversation in my life. So I wanted to share some of those that just happened in the last couple of weeks. Here's a couple of ways where this came up again. And I didn't do this right. I screwed this up some of the time. So I'm going to share my screen here, and let's just talk about these 5 specific time wasters, because examples and stories are often much more helpful than just general concepts. So I want to share this because sometimes the thing that seems like the right answer will require you to spend more of your time. So when is it worth it and when isn't it? And that's a decision that you have to make. Also, one of the things, I was just in a session this past week with some people that were taking my Productivity Gladiator training, and we were talking about how guilt is a strong motivating factor. You may feel obligated or like you're supposed to choose one of the options when you're actually, what's going to be better for you is to choose the other one. And sometimes it's hard to make that choice. So that's why I want to talk about this today. So here's the concept, right? Live like you're worth the value of your time. That's the whole premise of this, because you only get a certain number of hours. There's only a certain number of hours in your days and weeks. So spend your time wisely. So before we begin, I'm going to show these 5 examples. But do you know the value of your time? I'm about to share some specific examples, and as you follow along, you certainly can. One thing that I want you to do is, if you haven't already, I have a calculator that will let you figure this out. So what you can do is you can click this link right here, or I'll drop it in the description of the video so that you can access it. But this is a calculator that I created that helps calculate a rough estimate of the value of your time. So you'll see it right here. This is what it looks like. You don't have to give me your email address or anything to use this. This is just a tool because it's really helpful for folks to have an approximation of what their time might be worth. So I'm just going to use some round numbers that people, so just to kind of show you how this works. Let's say you make $55,000. Remember, up here, you don't use commas and dollars and stuff. You just put the numbers. Let's say the total number of hours you work per week, including your commute time, we'll call it 45 hours. And the number of hours you sleep per night, which is the time you spend in bed. So you go to bed at midnight, you get up at 6 a.m. That would be 6 hours, even if you only sleep for 5. That's your rough number. So I'll call it 6, or we'll say 7, right? So now you hit the calculate button. And down below, you're going to see it actually gives you some numbers here. So a rough estimate for that person, a starting point might be $17.50 for their personal time. Their work time might be $23.50, because work time and personal time aren't always the same. They're a little different sometimes. And then I also give you a rough estimate of the number of hours of personal time that you may have each week. So this is really helpful information, and this is what we talk about in Productivity Gladiator training. But you should have a number. So when we talk about this, I'm going to start sharing these scenarios, and I'm going to talk about what my time is worth for these scenarios, and you deciding for yourself. Make sure you know you have a starting number for what yours is. And also, here's my tip, by the way. That calculator is going to give you an estimate. But in order to have a number that you can really use, I want you to adjust it so it's the highest number that you can afford. So I want you to keep that number comfortably high. And if you're not familiar with adjusting it, I'm actually going to include the link to my TEDx talk right there. It's actually linked straight to the 9-minute and 45-second mark, where I actually talk about how do you adjust your time and what you should adjust the value of your time to. So I give you a rough estimate to start. And so for some people, their time might be a little higher or lower. So I want you to be comfortable adjusting your number once you get it. That gives you a good starting point. So let's talk about my 5 stories. Here's the most recent one. This is okay, guys. This is where I made a mistake with my time. And I'm really frustrated about it, but I'm happy to share it, which is class action lawsuit participation. Have you ever gotten one of those letters in the mail that says, hey, there's a class action lawsuit for everyone that was affected by whatever. So I was affected. I work for the federal government, and I was affected by the identity theft that happened. I don't know if you remember with OMB, the Office of Management and Budget lost 22 million federal workers' identity or personal identity information, social security numbers and stuff. So I was one of those people. And I got a letter in the mail, and the letter said each person was entitled to $125. And I thought, wow, $125? Okay, I'll go for that. That might be worth my time. So in order to do this, you had to collect some information. You had to go back in your records and find some information. You had to go on their website and register and put in your information so that you could get this money. So I did all of that. It took about an hour of my time. And this is where I get to vent for a second, because I did get that letter back in the mail, and it basically said, here is the check. You can actually see it. Oh, it's going to be a little blurry here. Darn, it's not going to show up in the camera, but it was $5.20. That's how much I got for this thing. So they told me $125, and then it says on the little letter, it says that you filed this claim, we've processed your claim and determined that you are eligible, and the enclosed payment was calculated per the court-approved settlement agreement. So what that means is everybody takes their cut, everybody else has their other interests based on what's left. They're going to split it up among the things. So my initial note said, we're going to give you $125. And after 60 minutes of my time, I got $5.20. Man, that's frustrating. My lesson learned on that one, never participate in class action lawsuits, just because it's likely not going to be worth your time. It has yet to happen for me. I've tried probably 6 or 7, and it's just not worth it. So that's a mistake that happened to me. I won't let that, even if it says something really nice, even if it says $125, I'm not going to let that happen again. Number 2, calling customer service. Here's one. On my T-Mobile bill, I'm a T-Mobile customer, and my bill recently, somehow they said that someone in my family, we're on a family plan, someone in my family made an international call. And my bill was $2.35 higher than normal. Now, on the principle of the thing, that's wrong. I did not make an international call. We did not leave the country. We did not dial anyone. And we looked for the details and the bill information, and we couldn't see, like, the number that they're saying. It would look like some kind of error or something. So your choices are, that's wrong, you should fix that. However, that's probably going to take 15 minutes of my time. Now, this is where we start getting into, I told you to calculate your numbers before. I'm just going to plug in some numbers here for this one while I'm talking about it. Right here, let's say if I value my time at $30 an hour, this is my personal time, right? If I value my personal time at $30 an hour, that means 5 minutes is worth $2.50 for me. So in that case, spending 15 minutes to call T-Mobile to fix this billing issue is going to be worth $7.50 of my time. And that's to fix a $2.35 higher than normal bill. So for me personally, I decided this isn't worth my time to call. If next month they do this again and it becomes a trend, I will absolutely call, and we can retroactively fix all of the errors in the bills. But for this $2.35, it's not worth the 15 minutes of my time it's going to take to call them and get this issue fixed. It's not even worth 5 minutes. So I made the decision not to do it. And then the funny part of the story is, then my mom found out that I wasn't going to fix it, and she was upset because they misbilled us. So she chose to call them and get that issue fixed. And so we did end up getting the $2.35 credited back because she was willing to spend the time to do that. But this is something where, you have the choice. So the right thing to do might be calling them because there's a problem with your bill. However, you also have the ability to choose. And in this case, I chose that it wasn't worth my time to do that. So that's calling customer service. Let's go with the next one. Picking it up yourself versus delivery. right? Here's one that we talk about frequently in some of my workshops. Walmart right now, if I'm assuming some of you, or I'm assuming you might have shopped at Walmart or you're familiar with it. So Walmart has three options right now. They have, you can go to the store, you can schedule a pickup on the app. So you can put all the items in your cart. They can go around the store, get it, keep it for you as a pickup, and then you can show up and drive to them and pick it up from them. Or you can get it delivered. So just looking at these numbers, right? If this is 90 minutes, that's an hour and a half of my time to go to the store. If I value my time at 30 bucks an hour, that might be $45 worth of my time to go there. If I schedule the pickup myself, it might only take 30 minutes because I'm going to go through the app. I'm going to do that. I'm going to drive into the parking lot, pick it up, and drive back out. So that will probably take a total of 30 minutes instead of 90 minutes because I don't have to go in. So I'm saving some of my time. And that's still worth, if I value my time at 30 bucks an hour, half an hour would be 15. So that's 15 bucks of my time. And this is just perspective, right? This isn't a given. This isn't every time, but this is just the way that I was thinking about it this week. Or if you get it delivered, it'll take about 10 minutes of my time because I can go in the app, I can order the stuff, and then it will get delivered to me, and all I have to do is put it away. So that'll take about 10 minutes of my time. And they do allow you to tip the driver in the app. So in total, it's going to cost me $5 more in the tip for the driver to do that 10 minutes. And by the way, if you can join, right now they have an offer to join Walmart Plus for $10 a month. And so that will get you unlimited deliveries for that $10 a month. So as I'm looking at this scenario, those are my three choices. And the reason I bring that up from this week is we had an error with one of our deliveries. So they did not deliver what we ordered. And then we called customer service. And now it's how much of my time is it taking? We got to call customer service, sit on hold with them. They reschedule the delivery. The system did not reflect the new delivery. And so they missed our delivery again the next day too. Okay, now I'm frustrated. What the heck? But it was worth, at that point, 2 missed deliveries. It wasn't worth it to risk it anymore. So we went ahead and went to the store this time to get it. However, the next time we'll probably try the delivery again, but we didn't want to risk a third time because we've spent so much of our time now tracking down and staying on top of this delivery. So I share that as a story to say that's a mistake we made where we tried the delivery and we tried it again. That was a mistake. It wasn't necessarily a mistake we made. But tracking all of that down, our time is worth it enough now that we've spent so much of our time doing this that it would be better just to go get the groceries. So when you're making those decisions, if you include the value of your time that you're saving or taking in your decision, it's interesting how that can weigh things out. As a general rule, we always get it delivered because saving that delivery, even if it's $5 tip or 5 or 10 bucks, that often saves me much more than $5 worth of my time. So that's getting your stuff delivered versus picking it up. Fourth one, TSA PreCheck versus global entry or not having any of those. This is an interesting thing. My parents were visiting and they asked me if they should pay for one of these. Should they get global entry? The reason is because I'm getting married in Mexico, looking forward to that. And that means that the family is going to be traveling to Mexico. And so that's a international flight. You're going to be crossing borders. So global entry might be worth it, right? That makes crossing the border much easier. There's also TSA PreCheck, which is only for the domestic flights. So my parents were asking me, which one's worth it? Should we get one of these? So here's the things we considered, right? As we were kicking this around, including the value of their time too. Foreign trips. How many of them were they going on? It seemed like they only had 1 or 2 times in the next few years where they were going to be crossing international borders. So it might not be worth it to, that's something to consider, is how much they're really going to use global entry. But then what's interesting is the other thing that occurred to us is, will you be checking a bag? My parents are the type of folks that always check a bag when they cross the border. And one of the things that we've noticed, I have global entry. And when I came back into the country one time, one of the things I noticed is I got to use the faster lane. I got to jump through customs, but I ended up waiting at the baggage carousel to pick up my bag after coming across the border. And so everybody who waited in the regular line caught up to me at the baggage claim because I was sitting there waiting for the bag. So I could have waited in line, waited for the bag. If you check a bag going through customs, unless it's a majorly busy airport, or it depends on your situation, right? But in this case, I thought for my parents, it's probably not worth it for them to get global entry because I know that they're going to check a bag when they travel. We also talked about TSA. Oh, and they also, I'm sorry, the one other thing they don't have is they also don't have a global entry location near them. So in order to get this global entry, they would have to travel a pretty far distance to go get the interview and get their fingerprints and all of that. And considering that it's, if it's $20 more that they're spending on that, but they're going to spend several hours of their time to go get the global entry. And then every time they use it, they're going to wait at the baggage claim line anyway. It's not worth it for them. Just go ahead and don't do global entry. Now, TSA PreCheck, on the other hand, has locations at every airport. And that's something that they could do. So we looked at that. And for them, it made sense based on the number of flights that they had coming up. It made sense for them to be able to do that because they'd be able to get to go to the airport a little bit later. They'd save some of their time. So for the $85 that it's going to cost, if you incorporate how much of their time it's going to take, it was worth it for them to do pre-check because for the next 5 years, they'll save time at the airport. Now, my one stipulation here is if my parents are the type that go to the airport 3 hours early anyway, because they're worried about, whether there's going to be a delay or something as they're trying to get through security, or they're just the nervous or anxious travelers that like to get there early. If you get there killer early anyway, then the wait in the security line is not going to affect your overall timeline anyway. Even if you have pre-check, you're still going to get there 3 hours early. So it's not necessarily saving you time. So maybe it's not worth it to get TSA pre-check. These are all things that we considered when we were looking at this. Ultimately, my parents decided to go for TSA pre-check. They didn't do the global entry. What it is for you might be different as well. So your scenario might be different. What would you choose if you were in that situation? What would that be? And then the last one is fly or drive to an upcoming wedding. I got invited to a wedding up in New Hampshire that I'm really freaking excited about. And we've got to get there from DC to New Hampshire. That's going to be an 8-hour drive. We looked into trains and buses, but none of those were really practical for what we needed. So there basically were 3 options that we could have, right? There was the fly and rent a car. We could fly into Boston and rent a car. We could fly into Boston and take a shuttle from the airport, or we could drive from DC. So when we looked at it, in terms of travel time, if you fly and rent a car, it's going to be 5 hours of travel time between getting to the airport, flying to the destination, and then getting your bags and getting your rental car. Then it's going to be an hour of drive time because it's an hour from the Boston airport each way. So this means, and the flight was about $400 and it was $70 a day from the car rental, for the car rental. Right. So as we look at this in terms of the total expense, if you incorporate, say that my time is worth $30 an hour, is my time times, we said it's 5 hours of travel and 1 hour of drive time each way. So that's 12 hours of my If you times that, we're looking at, that's $360, give or take. So that's a rough estimate of the time, right? $360 of my time plus the flight and $70 a day for the car rental. If we fly and take a shuttle, we looked at this too. Same premise, same amount of time, right? 6 hours each way. It's still $30 an hour, and it's still 6 hours of my time, or 12 hours of my time, excuse me. So that's $360, right? Plus $400 for the flight, and the shuttle is $35 each way. So you can see that based on that, the shuttle is going to be a little less expensive than the car rental. So maybe that's worth it. Then you have the 8 hours of drive time. There's also fuel charges in here. So if we were being, 30, you could say it's probably going to be plus $60 in gas, we'll call it, for that. So we'll round this one up and say $420. All right, this one's $360 plus those costs. This one's $420 plus these costs. If we just drive each way straight from DC, it's going to be 8 hours door to door, plus an hour of traffic. So that's 9 hours. So $30 an hour is my time, times 9 hours is $270, plus figure you're going to have a couple of tanks of gas at least each way, even if the car is pretty fuel efficient. So call it 15, maybe 30, 45 gallons or something like that. I'm just doing rough numbers. We're in the $100 to $200 range on gas. So we'll just split the difference and say 150. So if you incorporate that, the value of my time plus the gas to do this is $420. So that's total. So as we were looking at this, including the value of the time plus the value of the costs, for me personally, considering my time is worth this much, it seemed like it was worth it to use the drive option rather than these other options, because the cost incorporating the value of my time might be a little better. So that's the way that I saw the scenario. Now, there's a lot of ways that life isn't a formula. So I already can hear some of you, I can already hear you going, well, but what about if we really hate, like one of my friends who's going to the wedding really hates long car trips. So for him, it doesn't matter the money because he hates car trips. So this guy is definitely going to go, he's going to fly. I might have other friends who love car trips. And not only that, they could bring friends on the road trip. They could make a road trip out of it. They could stop at a couple of places, see something new, and make it an adventure. Now it's significantly more in one way or the other. So as I was looking at this, I'm pretty neutral on which one I would prefer more, which one I would like more, which one would bring me more joy. They were pretty even. So this is where I ended up with that scenario. So sharing that because those are 5 scenarios just in the last couple of weeks where I was incorporating the value of my time and making decisions for myself or my family or friends and colleagues and things that I've run into. So I hope that this was helpful. I hope that you can see some of the ways that I continue to apply this concept daily. And if you haven't seen it already, please do check out the links in the chat or the comments for this video, so you can also try this for yourself with the calculator and the TEDx Talk, which explains this. So I'm Brian Nelson Palmer. I train gladiators. That's Productivity Gladiator. Thanks so much for checking me out on this one.